Good afternoon, tubers. Matt and Roy back once again. So, if you guys are here, that's great, but this was unscheduled. In other words, I didn't give any previous notice of this particular live stream. Just it is a very nasty, rainy, sleety day here. So there's not much else to do but sit around and watch TV or look at other YouTube videos, which I've been doing. So figured we'll do a quick live stream. Whoever gets here gets here. If I don't get anybody in the first few minutes, I'll probably just cancel it, but we'll see what happens. I don't think we have anybody here at the moment. Hopefully you guys are all safe and sound where you are. We're very lucky in the sense that most of the area of Virginia, other than us, is dealing with sleet, snow, freezing rain right now, and we're pretty much just in the rain belt at the moment. Let me pull up the latest weather report here, and I'll give you an exact weather data. All right, so right now it's approximately 43 degrees. Now they're calling tonight for a wintry mix, so that means rain, sleet, freezing rain, and maybe even a little bit of snow mixed in there. But for around here, it'll melt by tomorrow morning. It won't stick around. It's just not going to be cold enough because the next day it's going to get up to 46 and then 47 and then 49, and by Friday of next week we're going to be up into the 60s. So that's going to be really nice. Maybe get out and do some more walking because I'll be perfectly honest, I haven't been doing that great walking because the weather has just been so nasty recently. I'm suffering with this little ear thing. You guys know that I have chronic eustachian tube problems. You might even be able to see all the swelling and the puffiness here. And that combined with just the nasty weather has just been kind of making me feel groggy and not really wanting to get as much exercise in as I should. Though I've been trying. Yesterday I went up getting about 15,000 steps. So far, what is it, 4 o'clock today? And I am at 8,100, which is actually really bad for me. See if you guys can see that. Yep, 8,100. Which, again, I'm just attributing that to the bad weather, the fact that I'm fighting this little illness. But do not worry, be getting back on board. And because I'm not getting as much exercise, I'm trying to eat even less than I normally do. What I did today, woke up, had a bowl of oatmeal, a cup of coffee, and a banana. And then when we went out to lunch, we went to Olive Garden, which we ate quite a bit there, and that's going to be it. No mints, no coffee, no hot chocolate, nothing tonight. So that'll give my body a chance to work off all that good food and hopefully won't gain any weight. I know I haven't gained any weight just by the way my clothes feel. As a matter of fact, I may have actually lost a few more pounds. But I don't want this to take another year. You got to remember, I am over a year now. Let's see, October. So I'm 14 months into this lifestyle change, weight loss journey, whatever you guys want to call it. And I don't want this to take another year. I want to get down to 220, and I want to do it before next October. Now, holidays are very, very hard for a lot of us because we have parties, we go to family members' houses. And we all have that bugaboo, as Fraser would say, peer pressure that people telling us, yeah, have another cookie, have another eggnog, have another sausage roll or whatever your family likes to serve. And of course, a lot of times we give in, and that's how we gain a lot of weight during the holidays. But there are ways to mitigate that. I mean, you can, and I've talked about this before, the more you eat, the more you have to exercise. Basically, the more food you put in, the more you have to work it off, because you got to remember, food is fuel. That's all it is. Food is not here for our enjoyment. It was never supposed to be. Back 100, 200 years ago, food was used as a necessity. It was to keep fuel, keep fuel in the furnace, to keep us going so we could do our daily tasks, and at the end of the day, maybe have some fun. But now we kind of treat food like it's a means of entertainment. We go out to these restaurants. We think nothing of ordering an appetizer, a meal, a dessert, and also, maybe even having seconds. And the absolute very worst offenders out there are buffets. And I'm telling you, if you have any issues with overeating and weight like I have in the past, buffets are your worst enemy. Now, there are people out there that will say, well, you know what, Matt, I go to a buffet, I limit myself to 2 plates, I'm good. No, it never works that way. And when you say limit yourself to 2 plates, I mean that could be two big honking plates. You got to remember, at buffets they give you slightly larger than normal dinner plates, and a lot of people pack those things 6, 7 inches high with food. Well, if you only have two of those, yeah, that could be 3, 4 thousand calories right there. So do yourself a favor, stay away from buffets if at all possible. What do we got here? Paul Kane says, "Howdy from Arizona. Missed you yesterday. Sorry about that. Seemed like a good discussion. Yes, it did, and I did fix what you said. I put instead of glutton, I put gluten, and I don't pretend to be the best speller in the world. I'm not." Paul Kane said, "I wish I had a chance to walk in the rain. Nothing hits me where I live more." Except maybe getting a fire going afterwards. Yeah, that would be nice. It'd dry off after a big walk, either from rain or from sweat. During the summer here, you wouldn't want to have any fires. It'd just be way too hot. George Blakely III and Charlie Pinsky are both here and say hello. WW Souls, hey, do you have any food reviews planned for the future? I do, but not right away. Getting to what I was saying just a minute or two ago, I'm still trying to get down to my goal weight, and if I keep eating out, it's never going to happen. The best thing to do is to eat inside. Make your own food. I even go so far now as to make my own homemade bread. I have a bread maker and I've had it for years and I haven't used it in a long time. And I said to myself the other day, you know what? I'm buying this bread from the store, which I have no idea what's in it. You look at the ingredients list and there's 50 ingredients there, and half of them are different words for sugar, xanthan gum and cornstarch, corn syrup. The other half are preservatives like sorbitol and citric acid. I'm like, I'm better off making my own bread. So that's what I do. I make my own honey oat bread, has very few ingredients, and I pretty much eat my sandwiches on there for lunch. We have homemade soups, and we try to eat out very little. But to get back to your question, I will be doing a few food reviews probably in about a month or so. I'm probably going to wait till after the holidays. I was planning on doing a review of the McRib, which everybody wanted to see, but unfortunately, none of the McDonald's in my area actually have a McRib. So the only way I could do that is if I find one, if we're traveling and I find one that actually is serving it, then I'll try to get that review done. Paul Kane says, flour, yeast, salt, and water. That's really all you need. The only other things I add into mine are oatmeal, because it's an oat bread. I'm supposed to use honey, but I use blue agave nectar because it's a little sweeter and it's actually better for you than most types of honey. And a little bit of salt goes in that, and pretty much everything else you said. So it's really, really natural. Michael Gardner does not like the McRib. I don't share your view on that. I know it's not the greatest thing for you. It's not a great nutritional item, but I just love the taste of it. Always have, always will. Mark Covington, ho, ho, ho. Hey, Matt, how about tempting? What's it say? About how tempting do you think buffets can be? They can be very tempting for people. A lot of it has to do with the fact money, because buffets can seem very cheap on the surface. I mean, they're all you can eat. In my area, there's a local Chinese buffet called Buffet City. You can go there for lunch during the week, and it's $7.85 for one person, and that's unlimited. And they have a selection of everything, not only Chinese food, but they have American food. They have fried chicken. They have fried fish. They have duck. They have what was that other thing? Squid. They have a lot of different seafood options. So you can definitely get your fill there. But look at the price you're paying. You're paying for the price of it when it comes to your health, because you're going to be eating entirely too much. Now, when it comes to people that are living on a budget, they say to themselves, "Oh, well, wait a minute. If I go to the buffet, it's cheaper than if I make food, go out grocery shopping, and make the food at home for my family. Well, initially that may be true, but only slightly. We're talking maybe just a couple of dollars more to make the food at home versus going out to eat. But think of the long-term medical costs that eating that kind of food does to your body. You know what? Your body is going to pay the price for eating that way. I already started paying the price for the way I ate my entire life. And you guys know I was pre-diabetic. My triglycerides were off the scale. I had very high blood pressure for a while. I even was starting to get some cholesterol issues. So you got to look at it in terms of quality of life and long-term healthcare costs. And when you add all that in, it's much cheaper in the long run to eat at home and better for you. Stephen Barber says, I didn't know you were live. That's because I did not announce this one. This was spur of the moment. I was sitting here watching YouTube videos, and I said, you know what? I'll bet you there are a lot of other people out there in YouTube land that are having the same problem I am. There's not really anything else to do today because this storm is affecting quite a bit of the country right now. So I said, you know what? What the heck? Let's go ahead and do a live stream. Paul Kane said, good luck closing the deal on the 2000 Buick LeSabre. Sounds like a great ride. It is, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. It is a 2000. The advertised is a 2001, but it's a 2000 Buick LeSabre Custom, maroon exterior, gray interior, so exactly the same as my old 2003 was, just 3 years older. It has 136,000 miles on it, but this thing was kept up really, really well, and only has a few minor issues, and it's nothing that'll keep it off the road. As a matter of fact, it's got a current inspection, and I could drive it as is. The few things that need to be addressed, the headlight switches, because this has, actually they're buttons, not even switches. There are two buttons, one to activate the headlights and one to activate the parking lights. And because this has automatic and daytime running lights, those switches were never used and have since stuck. So I have to either replace them or hopefully I'll be able to get in there with some electronics cleaner and clean them up. So I think that'll probably fix that issue. But it's not even really an immediate concern because, again, the lights are totally automatic. Whenever you have a rainstorm, even when the sun goes down, the lights will turn on. And in this case, because this is a 2000, this has daytime running lights, so they're always on no matter what. Something else that it needed, just a few cosmetic things, like the LeSabres have issues with the top of the dashboard kind of bowing like this. This one has that issue as well, but Dad and I will work on that. We'll probably put a couple of screws in there just to keep it down. I may not even do anything with it because to me it's not a very big deal. And the only other thing that it may need is the headlights are very oxidized. They're fogged over. But I may be able to just buff those out, and that is it. I mean, literally, that is everything that car needs, and it really isn't a need that it needs. It doesn't need it right away. I can drive this thing 5,000-10,000 miles before really doing any of that. And for what I'm getting it for, which is right about $1,500, I think it's a great deal, especially for that mileage, because that's average mileage for the year. And a couple of telltale signs. I'll give you guys an idea. If you're looking for a used car, this is what you want to see. And everything I'm about to tell you is true of this car. This is a two-owner car. So basically, only two people have ever owned this car. When he brought it out, he showed me that it had 2 keys and 2 remotes. And I believe the valet key was actually there too. With 136,000 miles, you would expect a lot of wear on the interior surfaces like the leather seats and the carpet. Not the case in this car. As a matter of fact, the leather seats are in excellent condition for the mileage. Other than that, things like the headliner are clean. There are no scratches from what I could tell on the outside. There are a few little scuffs, but that's just because it had been sitting outside for a while. Those will probably just clean off. They're like little white marks on the side. But the rest of the body is almost perfect. So you can tell whoever owned this vehicle really took care of it and enjoyed it. And when I took it for a test drive, it was amazing. It shifted like butter, smooth as silk, smooth as butter, however you want to say it. and the engine ran great. Another thing is the engine bay is super clean. Now, I don't know if the dealership, the gentleman that works at the dealership, he may have cleaned it up. I don't know. But the engine is super clean. The transmission fluid looked good, not overly so, but looked good. The oil was a little bit dirty. I was honest. The oil life indicator said that it was at 28%. And I believe that by the way it looked, because it was dark, but not like overly dirty, not like where it was getting to be sludge. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a good vehicle. It's still not definite. We have to go there tomorrow. There are a couple other little things we have to check. And the main thing was there was an issue with the title above what I was talking about yesterday. So I have to make sure that he has a clean and clear title. There may have been an issue with the lien on this. I'm not sure. But here's hoping. I gave it to God. I said, you know what, Lord, if this is the car you want me to have as my secondary vehicle, then let it work out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. So I'm giving it to him because he's the only one that knows what's best for me and indeed for all of us. Stephen Barber said, last night my blood sugar dipped to 51. I was like, crap, I wish I was wearing, so I was trying to get up fast. Now that afterwards my stomach hurts. Yeah, you got to be really careful. Before I was diabetic, I was very hypoglycemic. I would get down into the 40s and even the mid 30s when it came to my blood glucose, and that's definitely not a good place to be. What I used to do was leave a few candies by my bed, so if I noticed my blood sugar dipped really low, I could pop something in my mouth real quick. Of course, after that, I would need to go brush my teeth, but at the very least, I wouldn't have those dips. And if I did, I'd be able to control it. So maybe that's something you can try in the future. Chris Bartlett asks, is that big enough for your deliveries? Oh, absolutely. Buick LeSabre is a big car. They call it a mid-size car, but it's not. It's a full-size. It's got a huge trunk, huge back seat, great car. And the thing that got me is how pretty this car is. Now, a lot of people look at a car that's pretty and totally overlook the mechanics. So they'll look at how nice the paint is and how good the interior is, and they won't even look at the mechanics. I'm not that way. I look at everything in the car, and this car seems to be the whole package. And for $1,600, that's a really good price. That's low KBB retail for that. In other words, that car was in poor condition with about 40 or 50,000 more miles. That's what KBB says it's worth. This one is not. This one, I would say, is in good to very good condition. So value on this one's probably more like 2,000, maybe 2,500. So I'm getting a killer deal on this. And not to mention the fact that that'll allow me to do a few things if and when they come up. Because let's face it, it's a used vehicle. Things are going to need to be fixed and maintained and replaced eventually. Even the tires are decent on here. They're not new by any means, but they have at least 10,000 miles left on them, which is fine for me because that's about what I put on it in a year. So probably what I'll do is next winter I'll go ahead and replace the tires, and by that time the vehicle would have already paid for itself. Is that WWSOLS? WW Souls, I guess. Good luck with the car. I thought you were buying a Buick LaCrosse. I was looking at a Buick LaCrosse. My mechanic was selling his 2006 one. I think he was asking like $2,500 for it. But the problem with that one was it had 169, almost 170,000 miles on it. At the end of the day, I think even though that would be a great car, don't get me wrong, I would have been very happy with that as well. I'm getting a car that's a little bit older, it's 6 years older, but has 30,000 less miles than that and is $1,000 less. So I think this is a better option. And again, don't be disappointed, guys. This is by no means definite. There are things that have to happen for this deal to work out. So we'll see. But fingers crossed that it does, because I'm really into this car. I'm digging it, if you will. Stephen Barber says, I miss my 2002 Buick Century. That car never gave up. We did the whole thing. We redid the whole thing. I miss her a lot. She was my baby. Yeah, we can get attached to our cars. I'll be honest with you. I really liked my old LeSabre, and the only reason I got rid of the old LeSabre is because the transmission temperature pressure switch was going out in it. That was the only issue the LeSabre's ever had. And it wasn't until a month or two after I got rid of it, I found out how easy that was to actually replace. And it's really easy. There's a little right under the transmission. There's a little metal window, I guess you could say, or a metal door that you can remove, and the pressure switch is right there. So if that does wind up happening with this LeSabre, I know how to do it, and that's why I really want to do another LeSabre, because I know how reliable these vehicles are. And with only 136,000 miles on it, this thing has a lot of life left in it. Eric says there's actually very little that I miss about the Envoy. Well, you got a lot of years out of that Envoy, Eric. I know that you got that vehicle served you very well for a good long time. But yeah, I can understand it. Some vehicles are just that. They're beater cars. We take them, we use them for the jobs that we don't want to use our nice vehicle for, and we just beat on them. And then when they die, they die. Who cares, right? I mean, it doesn't mean anything to you anymore. It's almost a shame to call this LeSabre, if I do get it, a beater, though, because this thing isn't that nice a shape. Compared to the PT Cruiser, it's like comparing a Chevette to a Rolls Royce. I mean, it really is. It's in that nice of shape. You guys will see it if I get it. Sam Hodgson, I managed to pick up a PC with a gigabyte motherboard. I always say gigabit, but it's gigabyte motherboard. An i5 2500K, 12 gigs of RAM, and a Radeon HD 6750 for 20 pounds. Put an SSD in it, and it runs very well. I'll definitely upgrade the RAM to 16 gigs soon. It'll definitely benefit from that. The second gen Sandy Bridge, those are very good processors, the i3s, i5s, and i7s. 12 gigs is usually sufficient for most people. The only reason you would need more than that is if you were doing video editing. Most gamers can actually get away with 8 gigabytes of RAM. And the Radeon HD 6750 is a decent card. It's an older card, but again, you bump that up to 16 gigs of RAM, you'll have yourself a really good video editing rig if that's what you want to use it for. Eric said, I had it a little over 3 years and put 97,000 miles on it. That's insane. I can't believe you put that many miles on that thing. So let's see, a little over 3 years. It's about 32, maybe 33,000 miles a year. That's a lot, especially considering I don't even put 10,000 miles a year on my vehicles, generally speaking. Yeah, 11 watchers, 5 likes. That's awesome for one that was not announced. Stephen Barber said, the Century had every light up on the dash, but still ran fine. Never gave up. She was a tough old bird. Lit up like a Christmas tree, huh? Yeah, I've seen that before. Classic Mobile Home says hello to everybody. He's in the house. Nice. I love watching those videos. Very cool. I love seeing your cats. You know me, I'm a cat fan, so show me any and every video you have of your cats, and I'll watch it. Chris Bartlett says, I paid $900,000 for my Viva GMH Holden few months back. Oh, 900,000? Wow, that seems like an awful lot. 9,000, yeah, that sounds a little better. 900,000 would be a house. Around here, it'd be 3 houses. A few months back, and it was a lot for me. I don't work. Used my superannuation to buy it. I'm not sure what that is, but great. I mean, we all like our different vehicles, that's for sure. Eric says, one of the ones I miss is my 81 VW Rabbit truck with a 02 Jetta TDI engine and trans in it. That's interesting. I've heard of some weird conversions like that. If you guys ever watched David's Farm back in the day from Canada, he's off of YouTube now. But he had I think it started life as a 1990 or an 89 Dodge Caravan with a Volkswagen Jetta turbo diesel in it from an 85 Jetta. And he basically jerry rigged it to work in that van. And then once that van rotted out, he transferred all those workings into a 95 Dodge Caravan. And it was awesome. I mean, you would think it would be kind of weak because, I mean, those engines were really designed for the compact cars like the Jettas and the Rabbits. But it was sufficient to get him up and down the road. And he boasted he had the only Dodge Caravan that got 45 to 50 miles per gallon. I mean, it was insane. Got a Merry Christmas from Mr. and Mrs. Classic Mobile Homes. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas back to you as well. Okay, it's like a retirement account. Like we have IRAs and FHAs here, same types of things. Eric says around here you can buy 12 houses for 900,000. Wow. Hey, I'd settle for one house that's all my own. That would be nice. That's my dream someday, is to actually own my own home. Might happen, might not. We'll have to see. Michael Garner says I'm off. All right, Mike. Catch you on the next live stream. Chris Barlow says you could only buy a house in my town here in Adelaide for about 550,000. It's amazing. It amazes me how much housing prices fluctuate between country to country and even from state to state. When you consider, houses like in Virginia, especially in the southern part of Virginia, are much less expensive. You can get a house similar to this in our area for in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. Maybe even a little less if it needs work. And then you go up towards Washington, D.C., this same house up there would run you $500,000 or $600,000. It really is the three rules of real estate: location, location, location. And that is true as true can get. It's been that way pretty much since the dawn of the real estate age. Cles Mobile Home would love to put a 502 in a hearse. That would be interesting. The hot rod hearse. Instead of a hot rod Lincoln, you have a hot rod hearse. Yes, Eric, I remember when VW was caught fudging their emissions results for their diesel engines. Not at all surprised by that, though, because diesels are extremely dirty running engines at the best of times. And with all the strict pollution controls that we have now in all the countries, they probably thought they had no choice but to fudge those results. And they did a considerable amount of fudging. It was really interesting how they did it. They actually had, from what I understand, they actually had the computer programmers program the car computer to display false data. They actually had that done in-house. I mean, I have to give them kudos for ingenuity, even though it was illegal and it was something that they definitely shouldn't have done, also immoral in my opinion. I mean, you got to at least give them kudos for the engineering and the I guess the gumption to just try and do it. I'm glad they didn't get away with it though, because that's not fair. I mean, not only were some people were actually, believe it or not, getting the subsidies for getting supposedly clean running diesel, so they shouldn't have been getting those subsidies. And also, you have people shelling out their hard-earned money, $20,000, $30,000, maybe even $40,000 on a new vehicle, and the only reason they chose it maybe was because they thought it was an economical and it was good for the environment, and turns out not to be. Very sad. Chat window's messing up again. Eric said they had it set up so when an inspection station would plug it into it, it would run a different engine control map. Oh my gosh. It still amazes me what lengths manufacturers will go to make a buck. And, looking at this time of the year, considering, it's Christmas and we're always taught that we should give more than receive, and that is true. To see companies doing this just kind of sands me because at the end of the day, they're defrauding not only their customers, but they're defrauding the government, and they really need to be held liable for doing stuff like this. Very sad. And it's all right, Chris. I'm not good at spelling either. I'm sorry. I don't know. I used to be better, but I guess if you don't use it, you lose it. And I don't really do a lot of writing like I should. And of course, with the plethora of spell correction devices on the internet, Grammarly, I really don't have to be able to spell. And it's kind of a handicap nowadays. Back when my mother was a secretary, they had, at least early on, she didn't have computers. They had the IBM Selectric typewriters, and you had to know how to spell because there was no spell check on those. And if you did make a mistake, you may have been one of the lucky ones to have the Selectric 2 that had the automatic correction type on it, where you could go back and basically an arm would come up and put some white out on what you would just type, and you'd be able to type over it. But no, some people only had the original Selectric, which didn't have any type of character correction. So back then we were definitely forced to learn to spell better than we do now. George Blakey said, Matt, have to leave the live stream. Watch the rest in post-production. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And super chats are open, so if you guys want to give anything to the channel, that'll be great. It will go to improving the quality of these videos. And, when the weather gets better, help me to be able to get my ticket to go on the roller coaster like I promised you guys that I will do. And that's going to happen once Busch Gardens opens back up again. I'm also planning on some traveling to go to some abandoned facilities, some abandoned houses, because you guys seem to be asking me to do that a lot. And I would like to do that, but unfortunately, it costs a lot for gas money. It costs a lot for the equipment to be able to do it. So any little bit that you guys can contribute definitely helps me out there. And if you want to see those kind of videos, that would really help a lot. And that's all I'm going to say on the subject. Paul Kane, gotta fly like George. I will finish up in post. Thank you very much, Paul. Catch you on the next live stream, hopefully. Eric Brunhammer says, it amazes me how many people still don't use the plethora of spell checks built into the devices they hold in their hands every day. I know it. And a lot of times the problem is, especially with the cell phones, and this happens to me too, I may be conversing back and forth with 2 or 3 different people, and I don't have the time to double, triple check, make sure everything's spelled right, because there are homonyms where they're same word, different words that sound the same, and they're spelt differently. So there and there, from and for, a lot of the times they can be interchanged very easily. And you send that message, and you're like, oh darn, I didn't mean to say from, I meant to say for. So it's not necessarily everybody's fault, but if we took a little bit more time to make sure our messages were spelt properly before hitting that send button, things would definitely be a whole lot easier. Interesting. I didn't know that. Chris said, Bartlett says, that you guys don't have inspections where you are. When I have to register my bike in the Philippines, there you have to have an exhaust check for smoke before you can register it. The inspections are a big pain. I mean, they nitpick some of the dumbest things. Like I remember one time my check engine light was on, and this has changed since, but I'm talking maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I had the old LeSabre, the check engine light was on for an oxygen sensor that I had already replaced twice, and the ones that I put in just kept failing, and I said, forget it, I'm just going to leave it alone. The vehicle works fine. Do you know that one place failed me for that oxygen sensor being bad just because the check engine light was on. It passed the emissions test, but because the check engine light was on, they actually failed it. And for many years in the great state of Virginia, that was a law. If the check engine light was on, your vehicle fails the inspection. And it's just not fair. You got to be smart about it. Yes, I understand the inspections are here to make sure that the cars that are on the road are safe. They should be on the road, but they get ridiculous with it. They do the inspection and they inspect for things that have nothing to do with the safe operation of a vehicle. So I'm going to digress. I could go on a 2-3 hour rant about safety inspections and what I think about them, but I don't want to do that in this live stream because I'll just bore the heck out of everybody. Does and does. Yeah, excellent. Good point, Eric. That's another one of those homonyms, words that sound similar but have totally different meanings. Chris Bartlett said, I failed grade 3 because of my writing. I'm a lefty. I've only heard about that one other time. I remember years back in the Catholic Church, if you were being schooled in a Catholic school that was run by the Catholic Church, there were certain parishes that believed left-handed people were possessed by the devil or something. Look it up. I mean, this is actually true. And they would actually force them to write with their right hand. I don't think that's true anymore. I could be wrong, but that was kind of interesting. Chris Barlow said, I did have the engine light on when I bought my secondhand car, but they finally fixed mine. Was the computer had to be set back to GMH to be reset. It hasn't. Let's say reset. It hasn't. Some on now at all. Okay. Yeah. I mean, sometimes just resetting the computer will fix the problem. That's rare though, especially on American-made vehicles. If one of my Chevys or Fords or Chryslers has a check engine light come on, generally it's on for a good reason. Oh, still getting the sniffles today. Classic mobile home. When you go to the water box, you can get a real go bit on the tires. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry. With a 502, it well made 600 horsepower. That's great. I have no idea what you're talking about, but that's great. Again, I'm not a hardcore car guy, so there are certain things that definitely go over my head. And with that, tubers, I am ending this live stream. We had about 13 people here at the peak, which was good for one that was not announced. Okay, Chris Bartlett says he meant to say the light doesn't come on now at all. Good. So if it still did come on, I'd be concerned that all that money you spent trying to get it to go off was in vain. So that's good. All right, tubers, I am done. Please continue to like and subscribe. Definitely stay tuned for some more very interesting videos coming in the near future. And as always, have a blessed day, everybody.